Welcome to day one. What we're going to talk about today is just in general how to productize yourself, right? That's why you signed up for this event, these trainings, is because you wanted to learn how to productize yourself, how to turn yourself into a business, how to stand out, how to create your first offer, your first service, your first product. We have 3 days, a few speakers ahead of us. So I'm going to set the scene first and hopefully give some value that you guys haven't seen before, some that you probably have if you've read my content a good amount or been to other products or trainings. I'm sure there's going to be some repeat principles. But with that said, those are principles, right? It's a good thing for them to repeat because if you do see them repeating, that usually means that they should be taken into account. Then after this hour, we're going to bring JK Molina on, and he's going to give one of his classic trainings. I feel like every time I bring JK Molina on something on some kind of live, people just end we end the call all super excited. Everyone's very like energetic and ready to implement whatever JK had to say. So we'll leave the introduction for JK and all of that other stuff. Then, now, why you're here. Of course, you're here to learn how to productize yourself, but you're here because you want to make money. This is a safe space. It's okay. You're allowed to want to make money. That's why we're all here. Bond over it, enjoy it. That's what we're here to do. So there's that. But the thing there is you love learning. You have various interests. You're like me, right? You're, I have a feeling that we connect in some way. That's why you're here learning from me as opposed to someone else. Or you just have similar values, right? You want to spend more time on the interests that you love. You love studying various interests, which poses a big problem when it comes to monetization because all you hear online is that you need to niche down, niche down, niche down, choose one specific topic, go all in on that. And it doesn't feel right to you. And so you see the opportunity to share your interests with the people on the internet, but you aren't sure how to channel those into one brand or make sense of it under one brand. And the other thing here is that you see people going viral left and right. That's all you see on social media, right? You go on Instagram and you it's like viral post after viral post after viral post, and you know you can create something more valuable, potentially more valuable than them, right? The reason I got started on social media is because I was a web designer at the time. And whenever I would log on to Twitter, I would see a few certain people. Jose Rosado was one of them who's still around. And I would see that he was selling web design services. He was writing tweets. And I'm like, I like the tweets because I agreed with them. And since I agreed with them, I knew that I could do something similar, right? I know that everyone here, most people here, have something in their head that they can put online in a certain way that would lead to that post doing well, other people following them, and potentially over time, people buying from them, right? It's more than possible. We just need to learn the mechanics to do so. And that's exactly the thing. You don't know how to turn these things into an income source. And some of you probably do. Some of you probably have, but you're here to just get a different perspective. That leads to the big problem. Personal brands are dying. Not to sound polarizing or hyperbolic, and they're not really dying. Just to set the scene, personal brands are dying because we're at this weird point in social media where AI is becoming a thing. Social media in general, social media advice, we've gone through the rounds of it, right? There's people on social media that are talking about how to grow on social media. I feel like the advice and the knowledge of how to do that thing is very abundant, right? You can see it anywhere and everywhere. You probably know most of the principles, but what this leads to, in my eyes, is that most creators have just become glorified search engines, right? They're told to niche down, focus on one thing, become valuable or authoritative in that domain, and that becomes their main focus. So you go to their page and it just looks like not a dictionary, but like a search results page. If I were to type something in on Google, like how to do web design, then that's kind of what their profile looks like. So they're repositories of specialized knowledge that anyone or any AI can create because talking about things that the AIs are trained on, right? Anyone can ask AI for that. Anyone can have AI write that content for them. We need something else. We need a way to make this unique, right? The other thing is that there's so many tactics and strategies out there. You can go watch a YouTube video, you can scroll social media, and if you start on social media and then you start implementing some of these strategies or tactics or hook frameworks or content templates or whatever it is, there's nothing wrong with those. They're actually very good training wheels, but a lot of people become dependent on them. And so that's all they do. And then they turn into this kind of shallow brand and they aren't really known for anything. So we need to solve that. People don't want to follow dictionaries, they want to follow people. So, how do we become people? How do we become a person or a human? One last thing before we actually dig in is that everyone always asks, when is the best time to start? When, and when you actually think about it, it's kind of a funny question because when else are you going to start, right? Oh, you missed this wave. You missed the before the For You page when it was quote unquote super easy to grow and people have this distorted view of the past where it was somehow easier for people to do something when that wasn't the case. If you were boring in the past, you weren't going to build an audience. If you didn't have value in the past, you weren't going to make much money selling a product or service, right? The principles remain, and now is always the best time to start. So the thing here is just a mindset shift, right? A lot of people are here, maybe unconsciously, because they want the quick cash. They just want to be able, Dan, give me 10 posts to write, a product to create, and just like the money should come into my bank account because I can execute these series of tasks like a robot. And I'm sure we can do that. I can give you some steps and maybe you can make a few bucks, but then you didn't learn anything. You're not actually able to replicate it. You're not going to build on top of it and take it further or do anything that's meaningful because you stripped all of the struggle out of it. It wasn't difficult for you because you just followed a series of steps that you asked ChatGPT for. So that's not sustainable. Nobody's going to sustain that. On to what we're going to talk about, not only in this training, but throughout the rest. So the first and foundational thing is that you just need something to sell. That's non-negotiable. We can talk about monetization paths all day. We're actually going to talk about that with Justin Welsh tomorrow. But I doubt that Justin Welsh is even going to mention anything related to platform revenue. So post on X or Instagram and you get a few $100 in your bank account, or YouTube AdSense, right? You post videos, you get a certain number of views, they send you money, I guess. If you want something sustainable and that you have some semblance of control over, you just need something to sell. And that's okay. Remember, we're here to make money. This is a safe space. Money is a two-way street. You provide something valuable, you receive something valuable in return. It's mutual benefit, win-win. Hopefully, that's what we're here to do. In this training today, what we're going to talk about after a bit more foundational work is that you need a profitable idea to work with, right? There's many different ways to create a product or a service or an offer or whatever it is, but the idea is the foundation. If you don't have a good idea, then it's going to be difficult to go and sell that idea. So we'll talk about that today, and JK will take it even further when he comes on. The other thing is that you need to make it stand out like a sore thumb. That's where we leave it to JK Molina. He's going to talk about that. Then you need a way to start selling it fast, right? This is where people are going to get tripped up. Tomorrow, when I bring Randy Hill on, who is a fitness creator who has like 4,000 followers. He hasn't grown much recently, but he recently made some changes and made his first $80,000 in a month. So, I mean, that's a massive amount of money for someone who just like finally decided to do the thing. So he's going to talk about just how to do it. We don't want to worry about a website. We don't want to worry about a landing page. Well, same thing, landing page, making the offer, building out some kind of curriculum for a course or even any kind of physical product, whatever it may be. We're just getting straight. You have the idea. How do you immediately make money from it this week? That's what we're talking about. The next thing is you need a plan for making it more profitable because you can take the idea, you can go and make money this week, but you, of course, want to improve the product. You want to be able to charge more for it. You want to be able to turn it into something else. So, all of this is what we're talking about tomorrow and the next throughout this. Then you need to understand the different paths available. Justin Welsh will come on for that. And then you can use AI to enhance all of this. On the third day, we're going to have an entire hour just dedicated to how I use AI, how I've seen other people use AI. If you aren't using AI extensively just yet, then you'll probably start using it after this, hopefully in a good way, right? Now, the way I like to frame this, because while we're here to make money, we're here to potentially start a personal brand, we're here to become a creator, we're here to do whatever. I just want to give the general philosophy because it pains me that like the most sought after job or career right now is to become a YouTuber, right? For kids. The kids that want to grow up, it's like, oh, I want to be a YouTuber. I think the reason behind that is because they see something meaningful in it, right? They know what the other options are, which is not pursuing their interests, not being able to pursue anything that they want, really. But once we get started doing it, or once the thought of money comes into play, we start to just dwindle it down. We start to see a creator as just someone who pumps out content every day and promotes a product and makes money, and we leave it at that. So I want to frame this here so that we can try to maintain the meaningfulness of being a creator as we go on about it, because that will provide a sense of intrinsic motivation to make this work no matter how much money you make doing it, because you'll probably grow to find that this is probably something you'd want to do even if money weren't involved, right? Because it can be so meaningful. I like to frame this from like as the future of work because the creator economy is growing. You can look up statistics about how it's going to double in the industry value is going to double in the next like 5 years, whatever it may be. But even if you just plainly observe what's going on, you can start to see what's happening, right? The creator economy, in my eyes, is starting to create this decentralized set of systems. The education system, so we have the formal education system, which is like grade school, college. It's necessary to go through certain things to learn how to speak, to learn how to write, other things like that. But now the creator economy, I think, is creating this kind of interest-based education system, right? There are people that you resonate with, that you can learn from, and they're kind of like teachers. Their creators are people that pursue something, pursue some goal, get results, share those results with other people, and the price of courses or coaching or any kind of education, even free content, is much less than uh, government schooling or traditional schooling or Ivy League schools, obviously. The thing there is that most people stop learning after graduation, and creators are public schools for those who want more. So if you think of yourself as this public school, you're just this node that people can come to. Like-minded people can come to you to make a few steps toward their goals with your guidance. And then if they want to move on to someone else, they can. If they want to stick with you, they can, because people grow and evolve. They're going to learn from different people throughout their life. The next thing is just they're kind of the backbone of the digital economy, right? Creators and contractors are shaping the digital workforce. When businesses need to get more customers, they're going to creators now. They either create in-house creators or they pay for sponsored content, or they give equity to creators so that those creators can promote them and grow their product or service. And with that as well, when you solve your own problems and sell the solution, which we'll talk about to an extent, you get this really unique kind of like tribal feel on social media, right? I follow people that I'm interested in relating to health, relating to business, related to productivity, related to like random interests. And I have health people that I follow that sell cotton clothing or blue light glasses or certain supplements and I buy from them because they have a unique philosophy and take around it. And it's not, they're not in it solely for the profit, and the product quality isn't terrible like you're going to find on Amazon, right? So there's money there. You can go that route. Then the productivity aspect, if I want to learn how to be more productive or try something new, I can join some kind of training like this. I can purchase a course or a template or a system. Same goes for really any industry. You're kind of in this little digital community that you find yourself in, and it's not completely self-sustaining, but you can grow and support each other with the exchange of products, services, money. The next thing is community. And we can talk about the meaning crisis all day and how we're online more and more. But most people aren't, most people, since we're online and we attribute that to being like a part of why we feel lonely or lack purpose, we don't see social media as a way to combat that as well. We don't see it as a solution to the problem when it's social media, right? I know there's the physical barrier there, but there is something there. I have met J.K. Molina, Justin Welsh, people that are going to come onto this event, other people that have changed my life completely. I have this new group of friends that I go and visit, right? My entire the my engineering team lives in Toronto and I'm up there all the time. Like this life wouldn't really be possible without the community online. So your community opens up and it gives more room for meaning, right? So the three problems in today's world, which is lack of education beyond traditional schooling, lack of money doing something you enjoy, and lack of purpose, because if you're anything like me, you tend to not, it's difficult to find people with shared goals and values in your physical location, right? It's just difficult to find them. So there's that. The next thing is that the digital economy is just permissionless. You don't need capital to start a business anymore. That should blow people's minds, right? How many, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, however many years ago, you were bound to your physical location. You needed to go to a prestigious school to make the right connections, to get a certain amount of capital, to invest in some kind of traditional asset, or start a business from scratch. But you still kind of need capital because you need a brick and mortar business and so on and so forth. Now it's like you just write content and build digital products, right? At least as the foundation until you generate enough capital to go off and build something else like a startup or an e-commerce business or whatever business you're interested in building. The other thing, you don't need a publisher to launch a book. I think I'm living proof of that. While I don't have New York Times bestsellers yet, I was able to do something and earn from in an industry that was previously extremely competitive and I don't know the right word for it, but gatekeepy, right? If you've ever gone to write a book, you know how annoying and biased that industry is and how difficult it can be right now. So you can just take matters into your own hand. If you want to make money because you've always wanted to be an author and you want to write a book, you have a way to do that right now. We look at Devin Erickson on YouTube or on X, sorry, and he has written a fiction book and it's selling very well. He's making above six figures doing something that he's always wanted to do because he learned how to build an audience and write content that people enjoy based around his thoughts, opinions, ideas, the value that he's cultivated throughout his life. Another example is just you don't need a record label to create music, right? If you like music, you're probably on Instagram or on TikTok, and you'll see these reels or shorts that come up of people doing mixes or creating music or launching their music video or a new song, right? The people that come to mind is the Paradox band, who had Travis Barker on one of their new tracks, and the video went viral, and that led to downloads on Spotify. And then since the internet is so grand, that led to them getting on stage. I'm pretty sure it was at Warped Tour. And they're just these people who started creating music and started posting on social media. They didn't need to be signed by anyone in order to get on stage, right? That's incredible. The last thing is actualization, your actualization needs, right? There's basic needs, then there's actualization needs. The thing here with business is that it's very paralleled with self-development. business to me is like a vessel for self-development, actually, because when you are improving yourself in ways that aren't through business, there is rarely some kind of direct feedback, right? There's not really any pressure to do it. When your livelihood depends on your ability to grow and solve problems in what we call business, I see that as a great thing because it's just continuous growth. And I think we all value that here. Now, two types of creators. The first is influencers. That's just what we're going to call them. Technically, everyone's an influencer if you're influencing people. But for the sake of distinction, we're going to say influencers are the people who follow trends and patterns. They're the trend jackers. If you read my recent newsletter, you know what I'm talking about. They they don't have any kind of through line in their content. They're not necessarily trying to help people achieve something in their life. Their content is scattered and it's created for the sole purpose of generating attention, going viral, and getting the maximum amount of likes. And they can make money through brand deals and potentially products, but it, I don't think, again, I keep saying this. I feel like you guys are like me. That's just not a path that interests you, right? Or else you'd be doing it. The thing is, they monetize looks over depth. They post for entertainment. They create reactions. That's their main goal. And ultimately, they're replaceable, right? We see HeyGen and all of these AI avatars coming into play. And if you're in the marketing space, you see that people are creating like uh, just fake hooks of like people holding a product and then going into like a demo of the product. And it's like, so the influencers can be replaced because there's nothing there except for looks and entertainment. And that can be fabricated to quite a degree. The next, let's call them synthesizers, or I'd like to just call them creators because I like the word creator. But the synthesizers, they endlessly study the principles, right? The principles of value creation. They monetize their point of view. They post for education. They create value rather than reactions. And they're irreplaceable if they do what we're going to talk about soon. Now, many of you have seen this before. I bring it up because this was like when the one person business concept that I was talking about first started getting traction. These were the main two graphics that I was going over. So this is a big picture overview of what we're trying to accomplish with everything else that we talk about here. So in terms of the pillars of a business in today's world, you have brand, content, product, and marketing. So you have brand, which is the central display of your business, right? In our case, for simplicity, it's just a social media profile, maybe a website, wherever like the storefront is. Then the content is how you attract people to the brand because media is how you generate attention, right? You create content, it potentially gets spread, or you employ other tactics to get that content in front of other people that attracts them to your brand. Your brand builds trust, and then that leads into a product or a service. That's how you monetize. And then marketing is how it's kind of the same as content, but marketing is how you specifically create content around your product or service, and it's how you position it, right? These two are different. Kind of, sort of. They're related but different. A lot of people get confused because they're like, well, if I don't only write content about my product, then my content is useless. And I can't talk about my other interests and I can't talk about this and this and this, when that's not the case at all. There's a distinction, right? You need to promote or market your product, but you also need to create content to attract more people to your brand, so on and so forth. The way that I like to frame how to start thinking about these is the first is goals. What do you want out of life? What are you leading people towards? What are you attracting people to? What are you leading people to? Right? The second, problems. What are standing in the way? What's preventing them from achieving their goals? Where are they now and where do they want to be? That's a story. These start to form the foundation of content. Systems. So the in between, you have problem, you have goal. What's the system that you use to overcome the problem and achieve the goal. That's what can be turned into a product. That's what we're going to focus on after this slide. And we're going to talk about content and brand are going to be sprinkled throughout these entire trainings. Then benefits. So how has it impacted your life? What's the why behind the system? That's usually the core of marketing. Now, in terms of what you need to make this work in a unique way, you need genuine interests. So what are you obsessed with learning? We'll talk about this soon, but the skills needed for that are just research, learning, note taking, right? I'm assuming many of you like to learn, you like to read, you like to listen to audiobooks, you like to watch YouTube, whatever it may be, just having some kind of learning block in your day, start to consider that it's the same thing, learning and research. Just consider your learning block a research block. When I read this book in the morning, I'm learning, but I'm also researching because there's a lot of good ideas in here and I'm going to want to write about them. So, how do you generate ideas that are aligned with who you are and help you align with all of these goals, problems, systems, benefits? You research. And research is as simple as reading content, looking up stuff, creating ideas, right? Then your unique perspective. How will they help you reach your goals? For this, critical thinking, open-mindedness, self-improvement, we'll talk about this very soon. Value creation, how will they help others achieve their goals? So some external skills that I think you would benefit from studying. We have 6 hours total in the training that we're going over the next 3 days. But in your free time, seriously, learn about marketing and sales, learn writing and thinking, buy more courses, buy, uh, watch YouTube videos, just like flood your mind with these things so that when it comes time to apply them, you can, right? And so you can fill these knowledge gaps that you may not know you have that are preventing you from seeing some results, right? If you continuously study these things until they click, it becomes a lot easier to make some kind of money. That's a side tip. Then value distribution. So where can they find the value you create? Social media, digital tools, leverage building. This all makes sense. Now, I want you to think of your brand as just everything. We're going to call this your brand, but it's also your story, right? That's what your story is. Let me go over this graphic. So you have a few points here. You have highs and lows. You hit a point, it goes upward. So at the start, this is where your customers potentially are. This is who you can help the most at the start of the journey. Along the way, or here, you have the desire to change. In the middle, you have skill acquisition and experience that you've personally gone through to reach the point where you are in pursuit of your ideal future, right? This is what you're trying to articulate in your brand. How do you do that? First, pain point content. So you're helping people, one, you're making people aware of problems. You're talking about when you had a problem, or you're just giving a solution to a problem in the form of educational content. So what have you learned? What have you experienced? What are tips, tricks, opinions, other things that could help people move toward the ideal future? And then the unique path, because your path is unique, right? You haven't taken the same path as someone else because that's kind of impossible. You had a goal, you went after it, you went through the process of trial and error, you hit certain problems, you overcame them, you learned your lesson, and you may have forgotten about all of the lessons and value that you have just by the nature of life, right? So being able to write about these things and resurface them in your head shows you that you do actually have some form of value to offer, and that can be turned into a product or service that we'll call an irresistible offer because it is so unique to you. Now, the way that I like to frame content in general to simplify it, because we just talked about a bunch of nonsense, and now I want to circle back and just like, okay, how do we write content that aligns with something that we want to sell? The way that I like to think about it is just note taking. You take notes. So you pursue a big goal, you're doing something with your life, you're trying to get some kind of result that other people would find desirable. Along that, like along the way to the goal, just by nature of pursuing your goals, you learn and you make progress. You create a story. Along the way, what you learn and the experiences you gain and whatever you did, anything, any part of the journey can be turned into notes along the way. Those can be posted to social media. I would consider my bio right now on social media is notes to myself. And that's just such a great way to frame creating content in a way that doesn't feel weird or too templated or like it's a framework. You're just sharing your mind. You're sharing what is important and exciting to you specifically for pursuing your goal, right? The thing here, and why I want to emphasize what's important and what's exciting, is that most people don't have an energy signature, and that is the greatest reason as to why they aren't seeing any traction. They're boring, right? I'm the most boring guy imaginable. I'm very quiet. I would say I'm very stoic, very introverted. I'm just not, I'm a boring guy, and I like being a boring guy. But in my content, some may see my content as boring, and that's fine. That's what they see it as. But I feel like I have created this energy signature because I am good at getting across what I think is important or exciting for achieving the big goal that my audience or that I'm taking my audience toward, which for me, you can call becoming future proof, just self-maximizing in general, becoming the best you can be. That's kind of my niche, my mission. The reason this works, why does this work, right? Because we talked about influencers versus synthesizers. The influencers are very good at creating novelty. That's what catches attention, is just novelty, something new. So they follow trends and patterns because that's novel, right? They're consistently coming out. There's new trends all the time. There's new tactics that you can employ. How do you create something novel or attention grabbing when you are talking about something that is so educational or pain point driven or aspirational or just content in general as a creator? How do you create novelty and capture attention if you're not using these sleazy tactics to do so or the tactics that just turns everyone off? First is that your story equals pattern recognition. So, what you are pursuing, you're pursuing this ideal future. You have this story that you have gone through, and you're continuing to create a story of where you're going. With that as your frame, that's what leads to you noticing certain ideas. So, the way this ties into content being note taking is if I'm reading a book, I'm going to note, I've talked about this a lot, so you've probably heard me say this, but if I read a specific book, I'm going to notice ideas that relate to the goal that I'm pursuing. If someone else reads a book or watches a YouTube video or researches something or goes down a curiosity rabbit hole, they're going to notice different ideas that they can share if they're a creator, right? If you're a creator, just your mind and how you view your point of view, how you view things and what you find important or exciting is the foundation of any content that you write. The way that I like to think about filling up my brand or my profile with content that is uh, not only engaging, but impactful and grows with impact over time is I just share the things that are most important to me. And the more I do it, the more I realize that there are a lot of things that are very important to me. There are a lot of ideas that I see as exciting and important, and I want to share those with other people so that I can attract people who are also excited about those important things. Hopefully that makes sense. This is just foundational, right? We're not diving into how-tos yet. Now, a way to do this better, right? Because we need to make this known, or we need to have this mission in our head that allows us to notice the right ideas. Because if you have a mission, something you're pursuing, you're going to notice ideas that stick out to you, that help you reach that mission and help other people reach it just by learning every day. When we do that, you can write about anything you want. What do I mean by that? I can read this book by Krishnamurti on some kind of philosophy. I can read spirituality. I can read business. I can read whatever. I'm not niche down to a specific topic because there are many important things for achieving the mission that I'm pursuing. right? For future proof. Let's just say my mission is to help people become future proof. With that, I can talk about spirituality because how are you going to cope with the emotions and the lack of meaning that comes from technology accelerating right now? I can also talk about AI and technology because that's the leading edge, right? People can benefit from that. I can talk about health. I can talk about anything that I find important because it's important for becoming future proof, right? The difference isn't in the topic that you're talking about. It's not in the specialization. It's not in the specific idea you share within this little box. It's about the bigger picture. It's what is it leading towards? It's not one post, one thing that you post in isolation. It's about everything that you post under your brand. It's brand is what you associate with over time, the ideas you associate with over time. So it slowly builds until people get the picture. Now, to draw this distinction more, you can go with a topic-based niche. It helps you you have a lot of clarity because you know exactly what to write about, right? It's like, okay, today I'm writing about uh, something else to do with business, so let's go and find an idea and write about it. But the thing here is that it just boxes you into one narrow expertise, which has obvious problems when it comes to psychological development and agency. It encourages constant profitable niche switching. So a lot of beginners struggle with this. They go with the they look up what's the best niche to go into right now, and then they go with that. And then someone on social media says a different one is the most profitable, so they go with that. And then another person says that one sucks, so they go with this, and they can't make a decision for themselves because they aren't focused on the right things. The other is that it forces multi-passionate people to abandon interests, which I'm assuming you guys are. And I see, or let's continue with this. It creates content limitations. Then, with a mission-based niche, business becomes your vessel for your life's work, right? If it doesn't, if you talk about a certain topic and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean that's the end of your brand. It means that you can pivot and you can pursue something new and you can grow and adapt. And that's the great thing about this work. I talk about Jordan Peterson as an example all the time. He's not on social media to be a creator or an influencer. He's on social media because it's a tool to achieve his life's work, right? He's written many books. He has public speaking tours. He has Pearson Academy now. He has various ways that he can monetize and make money. But the core of it, how he generates traffic to those things, is with his YouTube videos, his lectures, his podcasts, his social posts, other things of that nature. He gets across what's important to him in his content. Go and watch any of Jordan Peterson's content or really anyone. It doesn't have to be Jordan Peterson, but you can see that they're just talking about things that they find important. They're illustrating that importance, and whatever they sell or earn money on is just somewhat related to the thing that they find important, and they can lead into that thing. Now, with a mission-based niche, of course, that creates unlimited content possibilities, as we discussed, and it builds a world for exploration because when you think of your brand as a world and your content is like a map to that world, you have your movies. So think of Star Wars or Marvel, right? You have your movies, that's your long form content. So your newsletters, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever it may be. You have your spin-off TV shows. So think Disney Plus and all the shows on Disney Plus. So that's your social media content, your tweets, your reels, your shorts, whatever it is that you choose to go with. And then you have your products or services, which is like your action figures or the things that they monetize, right? That's your universe. And your job is to create such a great body of work filled with the things that you find so important that it like other people they get so much value from it. They're impacted by it when they watch multiple of your YouTube videos. They start to see the through line. They start to see the mission. It inspires them, it educates them, it changes their life. That's what we're trying to head for here. And if you do that, you build trust. Money is a measure of trust, and you're very likely to actually turn the trust that you've built into some kind of income because you're focused on value first. And I think I see, yeah, JK's in here as a panelist, and I say value, but he's going to come in when it's his time and talk about turning value into insight. So Good stuff to come. But now we need to talk about what to sell, finally, right? We went over all of that crap. Uh, we just have to set the scene because I know many of you, some of you are seasoned with what I talk about. Many of you are brand new, right? So I kind of have to cover that. And I know people who are seasoned can benefit from rehearing that because we often forget about it. Oh, but in terms of what to sell, right? We have an idea for a brand or mission. I'm also going to give you a prompt at the end of this to help rather than like, you know how people used to give out Notion templates? Now people are just going to give out prompts that help you synthesize everything. So you don't have to fill out a Notion template based on like the ideas in your head. You can have a conversation to eventually get the roadmap of everything that we're going to talk about here. So it'll help you ideate your brand, your mission, so on and so forth. But according to that, and why we're here in this How to Productize Yourself event is, what are we going to sell? How are we going to start making money? There's three different ways you can go about this. The first is a pain point. So you have been through many transformations in your life. Even if you don't think you have, I guarantee you have achieved something that someone else hasn't, and you can help them, right? That's how you make money 101. The second thing is you can go after a passion of yours because you're passionate about something for a reason. A lot of people say, don't monetize your passion. And there's some truth in that. Usually, if you watch those videos, they say, oh, don't monetize your passion, do this instead. But I'm just reframing monetizing your passion. So go and monetize your passion. So the thing about a passion is you're very passionate about that thing, and you need to understand why you see that thing as so important. Because once you understand that, once you understand the reasoning behind why you're passionate about it, it becomes easier to help create that passion in other people. And once you create that passion in other people, then it becomes easy, well, not easy, but it becomes clear how to create a product or service around that thing, right? Because then it's something desirable that people want. It's not just some random interest that you're trying to shove down someone else's throats. You're showing them why it's important, why it can make their life better. And that's persuasion 101, sales 101. The third thing you can start to create a product around is your profession. So Justin Welsh, as an example, who's coming on tomorrow, he was a executive at, I think, a health tech startup, and he had a lot of skills related to networking and other skills related to that. And that helped him transition into business, right? For myself, I was a web designer. I tried a lot of different things. I tried web design freelance, couldn't do it, but then I got a job as a web designer. And then I learned a lot on that job, talked with the marketing sales department, understood it more because it was an agency. And then I was able to break off and do my own freelancing and make it work that time. So you can solve a pain point in your life, sell the solution, you can create or you can pursue your passion and help people create desire around that, or you can start with your profession. Now, in terms of what we're talking about in this training and what's going to bleed into tomorrow, what type of product can you sell or service? The first, and we're talking about like, how do you go from idea to money quick? I'm not talking about building out a physical product or building a software or building any of that. I want to validate this, right? The purpose of us doing this and productizing yourself is because right now I'm building a startup, right? If I were trying to make money, I wouldn't have an idea and then spend 6 to 12 months building the product just to see if it was going to work, right? Instead, what I do is I post content, I validate some ideas, I create a product or service really quick from my idea, and I start selling it immediately. I don't even write a landing page. I literally just reach out to people. We'll learn how to do that, right? That's what tomorrow's for. But the way you can go from idea to income very quick is you can sell a tutorial. So think tutoring, one-to-one tutoring. A lot of people don't do this, and I don't understand why they don't, because so many of you have skills that other people could benefit from, right? Web design. I could have done this with web design. Building cars, of all things. You can sell it as a hobby. Photoshop, guitar, Do you know any of these things? Are there people creating YouTube videos about them? Are they valuable skills that other people could benefit from learning? Can you persuade people as to why they can be beneficial to their life? If you can do that, then people can work with you one on one and you can teach them that skill and help them build out a project. Think like if you're a programmer, they have coding boot camps, right? I don't know why more coders don't offer one-to-one tutoring sessions for code. A lot of people would buy that, right? The second and more common way to do something like this is with coaching, but a lot of people don't register these skills as something that can be turned into an offer right away, right? So web design, you don't hear about web design coaching or building car coaching or Photoshop coaching, or you hear guitar coaching, but it's just tutoring. With selling a program, this is usually around like something that can be turned into an action plan, a program, or a routine. So fitness, productivity, self-improvement, potentially relationships, health, wealth, relationships in general, that usually falls under something that can be coached. So you have an action plan, a program, daily check-ins, whatever it may be. Then, or you can sell a system. So if you have something unique, like a lead generation system or a content creation system or a web design system for creating landing pages really fast, or something unique, right? A Photoshop method, a guitar playing method, something very unique to you, this is arguably the most profitable and unique. So you can go with pain point, passion, profession. You can turn that into a tutorial, a program, or a system. We're going to focus a bit more on system because that sets you up for a bit more success from the get-go because it's going to be a bit more unique. So if you don't know if one of these didn't stick out to you as like the obvious one to choose, then you're going to pick pain point, passion, profession, and we're just going to go sell a system. Now, uh, the system will make more sense after this slide, but now we need to find the right angle, right? So how are we going to angle? What is the actual product idea? What is it that we're trying to sell? The best way, I think, to do this is to take a broad idea of whatever the pain point, passion, or profession is. If you don't know what these are, wait for the prompt, fill that out later. They'll make sense. But if you have a pain point like uh, lack of focus, then I can look that up on YouTube. I can study other videos in that zone of interest. So lack of focus, productivity, um, those are kind of the two study programs, whatever it may be. And then I can go to someone like Ali Abdaal, filter by their top videos, and I can see how to organize your life, how to invest for beginners, how I manage my time, the Trident calendar system. This is a unique system, right? And it's wide out in the open. You probably don't want to take this one specifically, but you could do something very similar, right? The thing here is you're literally drowning in profitable ideas as you scroll on social media. You see something go viral, that's an opportunity to capitalize. Like you obviously probably shouldn't just capitalize on everything that you see, but if it's aligned with the mission that you want to go after, then why not do so, right? The reason you choose an angle for what you're trying to sell is so that it has the potential to be attention grabbing and impactful to a larger group of people, right? If I were to just say Web Design 101 course, or let's tie it in with this. If I were to just say sell a product that was called Productivity 101 versus How I Manage My Time, the Trident calendar system, this one's obviously going to do better. So what you do here, you have a vague idea of what you want to sell. You go and you start looking at YouTube videos, social posts, other things like that until you find something that has already been validated, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. The money is lying all around you and all those other cliches. These have clearly worked. And if you just spend some time on YouTube, you don't even need to watch the videos. Look at the title, look at how many views it's had. Uh, that's it. If it's slightly related to what it is that you want to sell, then create a spin off of it. That's what the next part is for. You can also look at prior purchases, right? So what have you purchased before and how can you make it slightly better? For me, My first digital product was actually a freelancing product and a web design product. And I had taken prior courses on that thing. So I knew that it was validated because I bought it and I knew that they were doing well. But I also had my unique way of doing it because I had failed so many times to the point where I didn't necessarily agree with everything that they said in the course. So I was able to create my own. Another way relating to YouTube is if we look at charisma on command, um, because we just talked about a productivity example, right? How to come up with an angle for a productivity product. For something like health or relationships or social dynamics or even business, in this case, social dynamics, if I go here, because people say a lot of people just can't connect the dots. If you're so interested in like let's say masculinity or femininity or dating or how to speak confidently or public speaking, whatever your skill is, whatever you're good at, you can find a better angle for it, right? So if we scroll through here, how to win almost every argument, that's pretty compelling. I don't know if that would be a big enough uh, idea for like a full-fledged product or service, but we're getting somewhere here. This can at least be used as like a content idea that can lead into the product or service, right? Because people will like this and then they'll want to go searching for more. Same with here, how to stop feeling awkward in social situations. This could definitely be the foundation of a product. Um, Not sure how much you'd be able to charge for it, but there's something here, right? There's obviously something here. So this is just to show you that even if you think that your skill or interest can't be monetized or do very well or have content that goes viral around it, you're wrong. And you can search and validate by just looking on YouTube or scrolling social media or following other accounts and just seeing what they do and reverse engineering the process. Now, to get to the last points of this, your unique mechanism is everything, right? How you get results for the thing you're doing. So you've chosen your pain point, passion, or profession as the foundation. You've come up with some kind of unique angle for how you plan to sell this product. Now we need to understand how is that different? How do you get results, right? You have the before, what's the after? How do you get there? For the unique mechanism and what that is to start with is your step-by-step process with a name put on it. So if my product idea is the Trident calendar system, well, one, that's okay, that's a unique mechanism in and of itself, right? But when I think how I manage my time, take away the Trident calendar system. Just how do I manage my time? I want to put that into a product. I want to help people with managing their time. I break down exactly what I do, step by step. What's my routine? I write down everything about it. I understand how do you get results. If the problem or the pain point is scattered focus, not being able to manage your time, what is the step? What is the system, the mechanism for getting them to being able to manage their time? So, how do you find this, right? First, you can rename what works and add your own flair. And this also helps with creating more clarity around the product that you want to sell. If you still don't know what it is, you can run through this process as well. So, from James Clear, habit stacking. If you want to help people with habits, you would probably think of James Clear book, Atomic Habits. You've heard of habit stacking. You can shift that to minimum viable habits, and then that gives you an idea, and then you can start to create something around that, right? The other thing is you already have a mechanism, you just haven't named it. So that's why I told you to kind of you think of, okay, here's the problem, scattered focus, don't know how to manage my time. Here's the solution, how I manage my time. What's the in between? Can you name that something? And I believe JK will help with the naming and big ideas here. This one, what do you hate about how most people do it? You can lean into the opposite. For me, with writing, everyone on growing on social media was so just obsessed with reels and TikToks and short form content, like the video content. And I just doubled down on writing. That's when 2 Hour Writer came out. That's when I started talking about writing more and people agreed with me, right? That was a compelling way for me to position myself when everyone was going towards whatever the TikTok and Instagram reel phase. The other way is to make something 10x simpler. So to condense the amount of steps in something that already exists, right? So that could be anything related to what you sell. It could be simplifying, it could be the two-step time management process or anything related to your skills or interests. The next is adding a constraint, which is similar to what do you hate, at least for me. Mine was my constraint for the longest time was for myself, not even something that I sold, but it's build a personal brand with only writing, right? Justin Welsh has still does that, right? He could easily turn that into a product if he wanted to, but he only has so much bandwidth and so much that he actually wants to sell, but you can't. Just add a constraint to something that you're already doing. Or if you have a constraint on something that you're already doing, that is a unique way to position yourself or create a product around that. You can translate from another interest. So if you were in the military before and you're talking about business, then you can create a business boot camp. And that brings like this unique way of thinking about how you're going to structure the program and what makes it unique to someone else. Find your without. So I teach writing without an English degree. I'm referencing writing here because that's what I did for the longest time is teach writing, but I did it without an English degree. I mean, a lot of people do, but uh, you can add a without to whatever it is that you do, and that starts to shine a light on how it can be unique. The next is just interview your past self. So, what do you wish you knew when you first got started? And this ends up creating a beginner level product or service. And that can be very impactful in and of itself, is just a beginner way of doing it. Now, we have 1 minute until JK comes on, but everything we just went over, there were definitely some gaps in it. And that's why the prompt is here. So, I will share this. I'll send this in an email after, and I'll also add it to the dashboard. But what this does is it's going to take everything that we just talked about, from coming up with your point of view, to coming up with your mission, to ideating your first offer, to validating an angle, to developing your unique mechanism, to so on and so forth, and spitting that out as a roadmap. That's what this prompt is for. So you're going to copy paste this whole thing into, I would recommend Claude, either Sonnet 4 or 4.1 or GPT-5. I like Claude more, but do what you want. Use the current best models with this if you can, just so you're getting the best answers. But I'll link this in the dashboard and I'll send it out as an email after. But we're here to talk with JK. So this is your homework right here. JK, are you here? Maybe. Let me make sure he's here. I'll play some Avengers music in the meantime.
Yes, I am. Yes, I
Oh,
am.
you're here. Okay.
Yep, yep.
Welcome, JK. Stop
What's
sharing.
up, everybody? Stuck.
You have video?
As a matter of fact, I do. I also have a standing desk, and it's currently standing.
Nice.
What's
All
up?
right. What is up? So all, can you hear this music?
No.
Crap. I had it during like the introduction to it. I was playing like the Avengers theme song. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. That I guess that didn't play through. But
It's okay. You
uh
can make a post now. How I introduce somebody without Avengers music. Take your own advice.
yeah, there you go. All right. So introducing JK for those who don't know, we have been friends for a good amount of time. We met on Twitter a few years, damn, a while ago now. We lived together in Austin, Texas for a good amount of time. JK went on to do a few interesting things when it came to business. He built a business with someone else and he ended up leaving. And his entire stuff, he's just like, he used to call me the silent assassin. And now I feel like he's the silent assassin. So, JK, go over like brief explanation of what you did when it came to your business. Where did you start? What happened? Why are you here where you are now?
All right. Well, thank you for having me. What's up, folks? Good night, evening, morning, wherever you are. So I started on Twitter maybe like around 2020. Just, everybody was locked down. We could do nothing. But then I was kind of posting and growing up, just talking about my interests, right? Normal advice. And at some point, I started building this ghostwriting agency. And it got to a point where I had like 70,000 followers. So it was going well. And I was making around $30,000 per month with 70K followers. And then some dude messaged me. He's like, "Yo, would you coach me over a call?" I'm like, "Sure." So we got on a call, and the guy had 900 followers. So I had 70 times his audience. And I asked him, "Well, how much you making?" And he's like, "Well, I'm making 30K." I'm like, "Excuse me? You're making the same amount of money as me, and I got 70 times your following?" And so it was a big enlightening moment for me in the kind of the idea that I built my business upon since then. And it's iterated, but it was like saying cash, which is you can make, get a big following, but if you don't know how to monetize it, then what's the big point? And I started working with a bunch of people who had big followings, but they couldn't monetize it. They couldn't get anything out of it. And the audience kind of ghosted them, and they were kind of friend zoned by the audience. And they would secretly resent them because they would give away a lot of value, but nothing came back. Nobody bought. They got all the likes and all the goodwill, but nothing was transacted. So then what was kind of the point, right? They were famous, but not really rich. And so I started building my business intentionally around that mantra of if I'm going to build this thing, I'm going to make money from it. And so Legs and Cash was born. And so a big component of it is today what I'm going to show you, which is the way you build an audience, the content you create while building the audience matters a lot. You could be very competent and extremely good at what you do. But if you post certain kinds of content, I find that it's very counterproductive. Whereas if you know what to not gatekeep, but what to simply not say, and what are the exact amounts of information you should give away, then it makes people lean in and to see what you want to sell more than if you gave them all away. So that was kind of a big insight for me, and we can take it anywhere you like from here then. I do have a presentation, so if you'd like me to start, I can start, or if you'd like to comment anything else.
Nope, all you.
All right, let us begin. So I have a document here. Is the easiest way to send it on the, where's the easiest way for me to post this so everybody can see it here?
Uh, Here, post it in the Q&A and I'll share it live.
All right, cool. Um, I don't know how to do it. Can I just send it to you on Telegram?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Wait,
That's
what
fine.
is it? The
It's a
prompt?
doc.
Oh, okay.
It's a doc with the prompt. Yeah.
Let me see.
So today, this is what I'm going to go over. I'm going to share screen, send a request.
Yep.
All right. So let's roll. Okay, so it is what I call value versus insight. And my thesis is if you post value, you get friend-zoned by the audience. And this is the way I build the business. There's many other ways to do it, but this is just how it worked for me. If you post value, you get friend-zoned by the audience. And I am in a fervent, is that a word? Disagreement with the term give away all your secrets for free and they'll pay you to implement them. I do not believe that to be true. I believe in posting insight and they will pay you to implement that. So today I'm going to create that distinction and I'm going to give you a prompt so that you can make your own decision depending on where you are and what business you want to build to use the one that suits you best. So my Instagram has 16,000 followers, and it makes me the same amount of money as my Twitter, which has 220,000 followers. And that is 1/15th of the audience if you compare one to the other. Now, for context, a toy car is also 1/15th the size of a car. So imagine you put these two together, you put them on a race, and then you press go, and they both finish at the same time. The difference in efficiency per follower is 15 times as much. That's not 15%, that's 1,500%. So it's a big deal, depending on how I built the audience and what content it was based on. And I credit insight-based content for a big part of this. Now, value-based content is giving people action steps. It's the follow these steps, steal my blueprint, right? And it will get you plenty of engagement and a lot of people thankful to you. It'll build a lot of goodwill. And mainstream advice says that this goodwill will then make people grateful enough to work with you, right? Which in my experience, this is where the logic breaks, and this does not happen. Because people don't make decisions out of gratitude. Some do, right? But most people make decisions out of self-interest. And when you give away valuable stuff, it makes people self-interest to use that stuff, not pay you for it. And this is why I found myself in the situation that I gave away so much value-based content and I got so many likes, but I didn't make any cash. So then what was the point? Because then why would people double pay? If I gave you the strategy, why would you pay me to implement it? So it didn't really make sense. But it only made sense in hindsight. Like, of course, it makes sense in hindsight, but in foresight, it's hard to see. Now, unlike value-based content, insight-based content doesn't really give you action steps. If instead it instead offers a different perspective. Now, it doesn't tell people what to do. It demonstrates the perspective that makes you do what you do. So, for example, there's certain behaviors that you do, but they all come from one perspective. If you give away the behavior, that's value. Whereas if you give away the perspective that led to that behavior, now I call that insight. So for example, you know that, for example, let's say every single of these pink circles was certain exercise. And you know how hard you should go on bench, on squat, and on your deadlift. But why do you know that? Why do you do the things you do? It comes from one big perspective, which is if you go to failure, then you're probably going to grow muscle, right? It comes from something above it. It's when you go to the things where that perspective is deployed that you give away value. Now, my observation is that people are more curious to ask you something, to lean into what you know, when exposed to a different perspective than when exposed to a different behavior. And this matters. So I'm going to demonstrate it here. So here's a value-based post that I made a few years ago. Feel free to steal my strategy to grow on all platforms. And I show you how often I post on LinkedIn, how often I post on Instagram, on YouTube, and on TikTok. So this was pretty much my strategy, right? And I didn't include it here, but it got a lot of engagement, right? It did pretty well. What does this not make you want to do? This makes you not want to pay me for a social media strategy because I already gave it to you. So then what's the point, right? Let's say I show or I host a workshop or I sell a course related to my social media strategy. You have less incentive to buy it because you already saw what's there. You know I'm going to post it at 9 Eastern. You know I'm going to teach you to do 7x LinkedIn posts. So then the incentives to pay me for it went down. Now notice this other post. This is what I call insight. Interesting statistic. And this is true, by the way. I get more clients from a pool of 500 customers, which is people who transact with me once, than from a 230,000 follower audience. So that is insight. What does this, and I'd like to believe, what does this make you want to do or feel like doing? It's inquire. So what else do you know? How does this work? What's the magic behind it? And that's the difference. It's where the content drives the energy. When you show people a change in behavior, you want to make them do the behavior, which drives it away from you. Whereas when you give the perspective, it attracts people to you because then people lean in. You want them to lean in, and they also want to lean in because they're like, okay, what else do you know? What's in there? Right? So when Dan says stuff like you are the niche, like the one-person business model, like this is the future, it makes people be like, what else do you know? What else have you thought about? What do you see that I don't? And that is insight-based content. Now, value-based content has a use for some. Like I'm not saying it's worthless. Obviously, it works. But mostly for people who tailor to the 1% of the 1%. Like think people who want to like do a real estate syndicate and they just want to tailor to like the top guys, right? Or who aim to build a business of audience size, right? Just these massive audiences. Me personally, thanks to the I call it experience, but it was actually kind of PTSD that the guy of 900 followers got me or gave me. I'm much more interested in audience efficiency than audience size. And pound per pound insight is for me, which I'd like to have a smaller business that is highly profitable. Insight is much more efficient than value for my own purpose. It's more persuasive, it sticks for longer, and it's easier to create, believe it or not. Once you get it, once you get into that kind of like groove, you'll be like, oh, this is way easier than giving away tips. Now, today I've got a prompt that does it for you. Previously, I had to like teach you how to do it. Now there's a prompt that does it for you. But if I just give you the how to do it, then it's not going to change you. So I'm going to explain to you for like 10 minutes what's the core kind of philosophy and way to create insight-based content, and then I'll give you the prompt. So insight-based content, roughly, and I'm very anti-template because I believe that if you just use templates, that's another way of saying you're just not good at what you do. Like you gotta get good, like you gotta do it in the beginning, right? That's what you do. But at the end, you end up breaking the rules. Every time Dan changes his style on creating Instagram posts, everybody fucking follows, right? Because he knows when to change and when to adapt, right? And at the end, if you use templates all the time, then where's the magic? Then people don't like you are by definition not the main character because you're following somebody else. So I'm not a big fan of templates. However, if I were to put this into a rough template, it would be if you want to create insight-based content, first is you find a truth that reveals an insight. And I'm going to explain every step. From the insight, an idea will be born. When you expose that to the audience, then there will be a bridge between them and their life with an idea, which I'm going to show you how to craft for your own. And then you position your solution as that bridge. So an easy way, like a rough way to remember this is TIB, Truth, Insight, Bridge. So you find a truth, from that truth, an insight is born, and then you position your product or whatever you want to do them to do as the bridge between them and then in a state with the idea. So I'm going to go step by step, 1, 2, 3. So step 1, find a truth that reveals an insight. My favorite marketing quote of all time, it was said by a non-marketer, which is marketing beyond conveying information is insecurity. I love this because marketing is pretty hard. And I think you posted this, Dan. You said, if you're struggling with marketing, just think, or with content, just think, how can I be more honest? I don't know if you said it, but if you did, fireman. Marketing
Yeah.
is hard. Yeah, there you go. So
The
credit to them.
best marketing strategy is honesty.
Right. Marketing is hard when one tries to manipulate the truth. It's hard on, like, it doesn't convert as well, unless you're like a psychopath, and there's very few like that, or you're Andrew Tate. But it's also hard on yourself because it feels icky and you don't end up creating something you like. So what I find is that often people need to market less and simply tell the truth more. My best email is actually a small truth rather than a big result. It was of one day that I finished my workday in 41 minutes, and I timed it on my watch. And then I took a picture of that watch at minute 41, and I said, guys, today I finished in 41 minutes. Here's my product. There's more to it than that, but it's a small result, right? It's the truth. Now, an idea, like one of my favorite ads is this one by David Ogilvy. You've probably seen this. At 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in this new Rolls-Royce comes from the electric clock. Now, this was, I believe, Rolls-Royce best-selling ad of all time. And this didn't come from the marketing department. It came from the engineering book. David Ogilvy, the guy that developed this ad, went to the engineering department and he asked for the Bible of the entire thing, how everything works. And he started reading up into the middle where he found this sentence. At 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in this new Rolls-Royce comes from the electric clock. And this is a truth, but the truth reveals so much more. You know how Budweiser, I think it was Budweiser, became one of the most popular beers? They were like not number one. But back then, the way to show that like claims that everybody made about their beers was that it was pure, right? This beer is pure. But they didn't really know what pure meant. So the guy went to the factory and he analyzed how the beer was made. And apparently they cooled it underground and then they bought it up through titanium tubes. And the tubes were like pretty sanitized or whatnot. And that's what pure meant. But nobody advertised that. They just said pure. The guy said, we do it with titanium tubes. And then everybody did that. Like this is a common practice in beer making. But he put the truth out there. And that small truth was that made people go, oh man, this rocks. It's the honesty. It's the small facts. But what happens is sometimes you're so like you've been inside of your work for so long that you forget what it looks like from the outside. So finding that truth, that's where it starts. Is what is this truth that it may be obvious to you, but fascinating to others? So the first step is actually finding a truth. The smallest truth sells more than the biggest half truth. This is something I believe in. And if you have a small truth, you can come up with great things. The thing is, you gotta find out, somebody's gotta extract it from you, either a third partner, or in this case, maybe the prompt. So I prepared something from a post I found like an hour ago. So from a mutual connection, Oliver. So this was posted 5 hours ago. So he posted this, right? If I were obese and dying, here's how I'd lose weight fast. No fat diets, no Ozempic, no cookie cutter. Just science-based strategies. Temperature manipulation, fix your gut, hormetic stress, protein prioritization, control portions, increase fiber, stay hydrated, get 79 hours of sleep, cut processed foods and sugar, and replace with this and increase your non-exercise movement. Right? This is what I would call a value-based post. And these are probably, if you're in the audience now, this is really easy to create because giving away advice is not a hard thing to do, right? We can do it all the time. We can just tell people what to do. We can give away the steps. But what we are not aware of is that when we do this, there are fascinating facts that we simply jump over and we never pay enough attention. And if we did, this could very well turn into our next big thing, right? So if we were to go with Dan's example, he said, well, I started creating websites and then I pivoted to this and I pivoted to that. I never really thought about my niche because it wasn't useful to me. Instead, I sold useful products and then I transitioned to selling courses and whatnot. And then it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean you don't have a niche? It's like, yeah, I don't believe in that. And so there was a truth that changed it all. So in the middle of our word processing, throwing at people, there was one truth that people would go, what the hell? You mean at 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in this Rolls-Royce comes from the electric clock? So sometimes we're just not aware of this stuff, right? Yet we say it all the time. So what the prompt does is, if you create value-based content and you just paste it, and the prompt, Dan will give it to you in the show notes, but I'd like to show you how it works. You just paste it, and then this thing will take it and be like, wait, hold on. You mean this? Have you noticed this? And it'll do it for you. But sometimes it's hard to see if you're not there. So what the first thing it will do is it will find a truth that reveals an insight. So I just copy and pasted this into Claude. And then the prompt got me this. You've discovered that most people are fighting their biology instead of working with it. While everyone else is focused in willpower and restriction, you've identified that sustainable weight loss isn't about overriding, but optimizing your systems. Your approach reveals something fascinating. You're giving them a body optimization manual. You understand that a human body has built-in mechanisms for weight regulation that most people never leverage. This shows you that the real problem isn't lack of motivation, it's a lack of biological literacy. And then XYZ, ABC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then people, as an outsider, they'd be like, yo, what the hell is biological literacy? And so the idea is born. And so from one truth that you were not aware of, this takes it and be like, yo, I need you to slow down because that thing you just said, that is something. There is magic here. So after we extract the truth, you find one simple thing, just like a 60 miles an hour. You finish your workday in 41 minutes. You never really chose a niche. Then you turn that truth and the insight from it into an idea. How do you do this? And what does this matter? So first, to get people to buy from you, you need first to get them to buy into. And the easiest thing you can get them to buy into is an idea. And this is, if you take nothing from today, but this is that social media is much easier when you treat it instead of an offer salesperson as an idea salesperson. Because people can choose to take offers or not, but they cannot choose to take ideas or not. It's automatic. It's like a song. You listen to a song, you either like it or you don't. It's like a smell. You smell something, you either like it or you don't. It's not like you have to make a conscious decision. However, let's say you like a song and you're into it. You didn't choose to like it, but let's say you did. That makes you so much more likely that you will buy tickets to that person's concert. If you like the smell, that makes you so much more likely that you'll buy a candle of that smell than if you didn't. The thing is, you never really had a choice. So don't give your audience a choice. Lead with the idea first. And if they buy into it, the likelihood that they buy your front end and back end offers is much higher because they already bought into that idea. If we were to go back to the idea before, it's biological literacy. It's something new, something that they haven't heard. So if they buy into that, the likelihood that they'll buy into biological literacy program, course, mentorship is much higher. So lead with the idea and not with the offer. So for me, personally, I had a few insights and a few truths that then turned into ideas that have made me 6 figures. Some have made me 7. So one insight that I got for myself is that selling access is much easier for me than selling stuff. And so the offer shell was born, in which I don't do offer suites, I do an offer shell. I don't sell different stuff, I sell one thing with different levels of access. I realized that less but better leads is a more profitable focus for me than more but worse leads. And so the idea of whale bait instead of fish bait was born. I started many businesses, but they all kind of had the same idea. I did software and coaching and done for you. But at the end of the day, the idea was always there. It was like saying cash. So the idea then was one big idea takes you to 1 million. From the things that were obvious, well, that I thought were like obvious, those became the most profitable moves I ever made. And you likely already have this, you're just not aware of it. So the dots are hard to connect on your own. And let's be real, you probably need a third party or a prompt to extract it from you. A great example of this is from M&Ms. So I don't know if you guys know this, but M&Ms was a war candy. People used to eat them mostly on World War I or II, one of those in the trenches. And one guy really liked them. He brought them back home to the US and he found a marketer and he asked them to market this for him. The marketer said, what's cool about this? And he couldn't find an answer. He couldn't find anything to sell M&Ms with. And at some point, they kind of got frustrated. And the guy said, dude, can you just tell me like why you like these so much? Like, what's the thing here? He said, man, they're nothing special. But the thing is, M&Ms, they melt in your mouth, but they don't melt in your hand. And then the guys were like, oh yeah, yeah, we're gonna get rich, boys, right? It's from something that you're like, to use like obvious, right? But people are like, oh my God, this is great. So People and prompts can point out what you think is obvious, but others think is fascinating. You don't really have to create big ideas, you'll find. It's more like you need to extract them from the pile of stuff you thought is like not that useful. So step 4 is use the prompt to help you collect your idea. So from just pasting it, you're going to find that this is going to link your insight to an idea. The idea born from this insight is body system optimization. The recognition that your body already knows how to lose weight, but modern life has disconnected us from these natural processes. You're teaching people how to work with their biology, not against it. Your method shows that effective weight loss isn't about doing harder things, it's about doing the right things with how human physiology actually works. Essentially teaching people to become their own metabolic engineers rather than diet followers. So look at everything this has been creating for us. And AI works better when you when you're not AI's bitch. So if it tells you something, you don't be like, yeah, this is it, I'm running with it. It's like AI should be your bitch. Like you should be like picking things that you like and don't like. So from this, and I intentionally chose an imperfect example, I wanted to find things so that you could use your own critical thinking and be like, yeah, the thing AI is focusing on is actually not cool. It's the things around it. So biological literacy, metabolic engineers. I really like these two terms. So then the cool thing about AI is it doesn't get tired of you. So you can keep asking it, can you give me more on these two things? More on metabolic engineers, more on biological literacy. And mind you, if I post something related to 5 steps, 10 steps so that you can lose more fat, that is cool, right? But what if Oliver said today, folks, I worked with 250 seven-figures entrepreneurs. And what I've noticed is that they have incredible financial literacy. What they do not have is biological literacy. And the moment we activated biological literacy and they became their own metabolic engineers, they started losing weight, and here are the results. Now, let me show you how these things work. Now, what does that make you want to do? And be like, what is biological literacy and what is metabolic engineering? It's a new thing. It's an idea that was born from things that were obvious to you. And that's what really attracts the high quality audience, because people can copy how Dan talks, people can copy how Dan draws his stuff on Instagram, but nobody can copy what he thinks or how he thinks. And that's why the guy keeps going and making more and beating these copycats, because the source is intact. The big ideas are always there. And this ends up being your own like advantage. People will copy you if your ideas are good. People will end up doing things you do. But you can find ways to extract your own things the way you see them, your own 60 miles an hour, your own M&M melts in your mouth, not in your hands. Then nobody will ever be able to compete with you, because it's the idea that is more flammable than the entrepreneur. Like Danco is huge. We all know this, right? The guy gets stopped at Whole Foods like every 30 minutes. But his ideas are bigger than him. Even those are bigger than him. And that's kind of the goal. Because if the idea catches fire, then people go back to the source and be like, where did this come from? And that's going to be you. And that's why I put so much of a big effort and an emphasis on you got to develop your own. And the way to develop them is not to create them, but to find them among all the stuff that you already think is obvious. And 3, once you have exposed people to the idea that their life didn't have before, then you simply position your solution as the bridge. Once I've shown you about metabolic engineering and biological literacy, then there is a gap. There is a gap between you now and you with it. So then the only thing you have to do is not make it like really almost be ashamed of selling. You know how some YouTubers are like, by the way, please subscribe and like the comment and like the video, and here's my product. Thank you. Let's go back to the video, right? You know how people do that? There's a lot of shame. This allows you to sell without shame. This says, hey, this idea, guys, I'm hosting this workshop with Justin and JK. Should you like to install this in your life, this is where it happens. It gives you pride in your stuff. It gives you confidence that you have something worth saying, and you do. You just didn't know it. You had to extract it in order to sell it. Selling further is unnecessary once you present that gap. Like, for example, a doctor recommending a pill after telling someone what's wrong. You don't need to sell them on the effectiveness of it. If I've proven that your life with the idea could be different than without it, the doctor doesn't really have to sell you on, by the way, when you get out, here's my discount. Do it on the card. Please do it now. 9 left. He just needs to say, by the way, you're vitamin B deficient, pick it up on the way out. And what do? We pick it up on the way out because he has demonstrated that our life could be better with it. So the prompt helped you create a gap. Position your idea as your bridge to fill it. It will also give you options you can riff off of. So here's an example. You could position your system as the bridge between fighting your body and partnering with it. Instead of teaching people how to lose weight, you're showing why your body stores fats, how to activate your natural fat burning systems. Biological literacy is what you need. You don't need to follow the sugar and boiled egg diet. It's biological literacy. Your strategies become tools for optimization rather than weight loss tactics. This positions you as someone who understands physiology at a deeper level. So there you go. It gives you some names that you can call your big idea. And I tell everybody I work with on big ideas, and people pay $10,000 per quarter for me to tell them, listen, dude, this is going to be really cringe. Let's just be real. Because ideas always start cringe. I don't know how it felt for you then, but when I started with my own, it felt a little bit like odd saying the cash creator or the likes in cash or the offer shell. It'd be like, what are you even talking about? But it's that courage to stick with things that are cringe that makes them not cringe.
Yeah. One thing there, so someone who's coming on tomorrow, his name's Randy Hill. He's actually my trainer now because he reached out and he was good at he was good at making friends and networking, like we're also going to talk about in this event. But uh, he used a similar prompt and it gave him the idea of helping people become a human weapon. And so he was in the military beforehand, and he was a firefighter after that, and he had always like when he heard human weapon as a way to like frame his product or even his branding or just what he helps people with, right? Like he's a coach. He doesn't have a specific name for his offers, just coaching, but through his content and his branding, he helps people become a human weapon. And to me, at least, like he thinks it's cringe, but when I see it, it's like, I mean, that is kind of what I want to become, right? Like that's my desire is I want to be this, like for me, like maximized person. I want to be fast. I want to be strong. I want to be athletic. I want to be aesthetic. And so human weapon and him teaching through the way that he teaches his personality, that attracts the specific type of person. Like his story about being a first responder attracts first responders. And then, hey, I can help you become a human weapon. It's kind of like a match made in heaven at that point, right? They see the idea, they're much more likely to buy. He's charging upwards of like he actually signed on Devin, my editor too, for 15,000. So good prices. We'll talk to him tomorrow,
Bro.
but back to you.
The cool thing is you're one idea away. That's why I say you're one idea from a million. And I'm going to prove it to you. We're going to go to Amazon.com right now, and we're going to look up the habits of highly effective people. Now, the guy wrote one good book. And then he said, I'm going to launch the normal one. Then I'm going to launch the guided journal. Then I'm going to launch the one in Spanish. Then the one in personal lessons. Then the one in, I think there's like highly effective teenagers. There's another one, the personal workbook. There's even the fucking card deck, man. So you just have one and you just rehash it over and over and over again. Once you have one big idea, the game is just reps. It's just like you're a singer and like everybody loves that one song. And then you know that you play it at the concert, everybody's gonna go crazy. Like that's how close you are if you can find one. So I like Human Weapon. The guy clearly has the 7 habits of highly effective people with you know, look, teenagers, man. What the hell? It's just one idea, and look how much you can take it.
Yeah.
So, warnings when creating insight-based content is clear is better than clever, is better than corny. It's really easy to go overboard with the naming. So don't. If your insight doesn't have a name, then you don't need to put one in it, right? If your insight doesn't fit in like a really cool visual, then don't try it. I love creating visuals, and I really like it when I can condense a sentence or a concept into something that looks easier to understand. But my whole brand, Legacy Cash, I can't put it on a visual. It's too hard. It's too hard to encompass. So I'm okay with just leaving it in text, and that's fine, right? Another one by Nick Baer is the hybrid athlete. That's kind of like he doesn't have a visual for it. It's just a concept. So don't go too corny with it, right? You be corny, but not too corny. Two, when one teaches, two learn. You can ask the prompt to write for you. And I've asked it that if you ask, it will do it. And your writing will get better, but you will not be a better writer. And considering you are in a creative profession and that you get paid not by the hour, but by the idea, this is a huge fucking problem. So do it so that you can kind of learn the ropes, but then be wise enough to know when it doesn't serve you anymore. And what bridge you make, depending on, do you sell? Do you ask people to join the newsletter, to subscribe to your YouTube? It depends on what platform you're using. So my main sales channel is email. So the bridge is almost always a paid offer. On social media, the bridge is almost always an idea and sometimes a paid offer. So you can see how I treat things. I am an offer salesperson on email, but I'm an idea salesperson on social media. Now, the best way for me to demonstrate is to demonstrate. So if anybody would be so kind, I think this would be fun. Do you have a value-based piece of content? I'm going to take one and I'm going to turn it into Insight Live under all the pressure to show you what could be done. But share one value-based piece of content.
Yeah. Wait, me or someone else?
Anybody.
Someone post a link to in the Q&A to one of your pieces of content that you think is value-based. And while we're waiting for that, there've been a few questions. So, we've got Hussein. Okay. For what is it? For this prompt, I'll send this and the other prompt in the email after, and the yeah, that it'll all be detailed, right, on how to go through this process yourself. Oh, you got the tri-agents one.
Yeah, I like a few of these. Community will heal what therapy can't fix. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, sure. This is great. We're gonna start with this. We're drowning people in info when what they're starting for is transformation. Yesterday proved it. 3 hours analyzing viral content, frameworks, tips, no retention. But I still remember every word my mentor told me about his first speaking gig. How he froze on stage, forgot his presentation, and ended up just telling the audience about the time he lost his biggest client. Starting ovation. After 7 years building brands, I finally understood that tips are info, but stories are transpo. Ha. This is exactly what's happening on LinkedIn right now. Everyone's sharing tips, but what makes people remember you is transformations. Here's a framework I use with my clients. Start with the lesson, find the moment you learned it, make it visual, connect it back to the world. The best stories aren't stories, they're confessions with a business lesson attached. Your next post, no tips. Just write one story about a time you learned a painful lesson. Watch what happens to your DMs. So, first of all, let me clean up my tier. That was beautiful, man. Good stuff. Second of all, let's say I'm your ideal client and I'm reading this, right? And I'm really into it. And I'm like, okay, great. Like vulnerability and turning my pain and stories and tips. And then I'm like, man, this guy really knows his shit. And then maybe I'm considering some sort of becoming a client. But then you're like, here's a framework I use with my clients. Start with the lesson, find the moment, make it visual, connect it back. And then I'm like, man, Bernard, you're such a G, bro. Thank you for not asking me to pay to get so much value from you. Let me take this and then I'll for sure get back to you once I implement this. Oh, let me try your free stuff so that I can afford your paid stuff. Like the sentences we all like to hear, right? So what do you do then? How do you change this so that it's not value but insight? I really like this example. So we're gonna copy. So I just copied it. And then if you go to the doc I sent you, up to the top, there's the prompt. So you copy
And
that.
this will be included and you'll get it after email or on your
Yes.
dashboard.
So you copy that. You copy your value-based piece of content because I noticed that value often comes more natural to people. And then you copy the prompt. So I copied it here. So we press enter. You've discovered something fascinating about memory and learning. Transformation bits info because stories create neural pathways that tips can't. Okay. Well, everyone's obsessing over frameworks. You've observed that our brains are literally wired differently for narrative versus data processing. Okay. The frozen stage story from 2009 is still vivid, while yesterday's frameworks vanished. This isn't just about engagement, it's about neurological levels. The big idea is that your prospects aren't suffering from info deficit, but from transformation deficit. Okay. Every piece of tactical content they consume makes them more informed, but not more transformed. They're collecting tips like digital hoarders while remaining fundamentally unchanged. They don't teach lessons, they create memory anchors that stick because they engage the same brain networks we use to process our own lived experiences. You could position your work as the bridge between having great expertise and making it unforgettable. Instead of helping people create better content, you help them transform the knowledge into transformation stories that prospects remember months later. Your process isn't about content, it's about memory architecture. You take their scattered expertise and turn it into story-driven content that creates lasting neural inputs. So some ways you can name it. I'm going to write for you and I'm going to show you how I would turn this into something. Memory anchors, stories that stick, neural marketing, story for strategy, transformation deficit, the experience gap, story-wired brains, confession marketing. I like that one. I like that one. Scene setting content, the memory test, anti-tips movement. Okay, so everybody here, including me, gets what we in the business call a CP. It's a cringe pass. So I'm going to start writing, and it might be very cringe, but I'm going to show you an idea of how this could turn into something. So some ideas that stuck to me from that were memory anchors. I like that one. I liked, what was it? Confession marketing. There was one that you mentioned here. No, wait. Pain. Painful or embarrassing. And I think there was one more. I'll start with this. So let us begin. You will never fail to find information. You open the feed, and there's going to be tips on how to, how you can. it's almost always about information and what people can do. But these people are often not making as much as they could be making or as others are making. Meanwhile, other people that seem to just wing it are actually getting more clients and making more money than the rest. And their strategy seems pretty bland and raw. But is it? I still remember every word my mentor told me on his first speaking gig, how he froze on stage, forgot his entire presentation, and ended up telling the audience about the time he lost. Was it luck? My thesis was not. Is what I call confession marketing. Right now, everyone's on the information marketing train. With AI, it's 50x. But the problem with that is that even though their brains are being fed, their hearts are not. The content is read, but it's not felt. The words are processed, but they're not retained. And so people end up almost knowing less after going through the info content you post than after, which ends up in fewer clients. When I work with clients, I have one rule. I have one rule of thumb. I have a rule of thumb. That information marketing is good. Confession marketing is better. Remember that old adage that people buy emotionally and justify logically? When did we forget that? When did it change? Never did. And compassion is one, if not the most effective tactic we've got to transmit emotions, because it lowers people's defenses and it allows you to create that connection that information marketing doesn't give people. They'll pay you, they'll buy from you, and they won't necessarily be able to articulate how. But you know, it's because in the middle of the information marketing age, you chose compassion for yourself and for others. You made them feel something. And in the end, that makes up for the difference. See below case study of a client using compassion marketing that went from 10K a month to 50K a month. This starts with you. Extracting your stories, turning them into compassion-based assets, using those as your funnel for your product or service. This is what we get crystal clear on our first call together. DM me for details. Boom. right? So people take this and they're gonna be like, they don't know where to go. They're like, okay, I see the value in it, but I didn't tell them what to do. I didn't elicit a behavior. I gave them my perspective, and that was insight. And because it is insight and not value, it doesn't make people want to try stuff. It makes people want to buy stuff because it shows that you know something that they don't. And that is the content that more high value audiences and efficient audiences is built upon. Insight, not value. And that's my thesis.
You're an animal for writing all of that in one go. I was like, these are takes me a while to write that. But one thing I've noticed you in the examples that you've given, there's always been some kind of like case study or something of that nature. So there's a question here. Does it not show up? Oh, I'll just read it to you. I know you've talked
Should I stop
about,
sharing?
you can keep sharing if you want.
Okay.
Well, if we're done, I get you don't have to. Uh, but the question is, I know you've talked about truth and idea, but how do we solve the credibility aspect? I feel that people also buy ideas from people who have proved themselves in past, like a famous celebrity can sell anything, while a new Instagram influencer will have trouble with people following them and considering what they're selling is valuable. So when you're a beginner, how do you prove your credibility, or is that even necessary, or something that you should focus on?
Yeah. Let me pull this up.
While he's pulling that up, just to reiterate to everyone, all the documents, the prompts, etc., will be sent after this.
So who communicates more safety? A or B? It's B. Newsflash. Why? Because the guy's just telling you, hey, you should totally do this. Take this advice. Whereas B is, hey, you should totally do this. I took it and I'm alive. So what do you do if you're a beginner? And Dan knows how much I love answering these questions. But what do you do in this situation? Is you take risk and you show, I shown you that this is how I do things. And I'm going to prove to you that it's safe. So you find a way to, the thesis and the insight that you gave, you find a way to create risk so that people will trust you. How can you do this? You say, I'm just going to build a brand of text. I'm going to show you you don't need visuals. Then you do it with just text. So the entire thing is I'm showing you how I'm doing it now. Let's say you do fitness, right? I'm going to show you over the next 30 days how this approach is going to get me to this outcome. And I'm prove to you through me that it is a safe bridge. So that's the short answer. You take risk.
Yep. Yeah, Hussein said, become your own case study. It's a big idea.
Or
Derek,
guinea
yes.
pig.
Yeah, guinea pig. That's what I consider myself, man. Like in health, I'm the biggest lab rat imaginable. Yes, Derek, you'll replay will also be there. Um, good. IG page coming up and best transformation of this human weapon is underway. Yep. This was
And this
game
requires some
changing.
sort of confidence, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to say that I believe in my own things.
Yeah.
You know, I when I reached a very important business goal of mine, my my mentor asked me, "What's one big takeaway?" And I said, out of the entire, maybe it was like a 19 months outcome that I really fought for. And the biggest outcome or takeaway I got was that people just want you to lead. That's the main one. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, if you're on the dot or you fail at the end of the day, like people just want you to lead. You know how people at the street, like let's say you want to cross the street and there's a green light and everybody knows like they should cross, but not really. But then one guy crosses and then everybody crosses. Like people just want you to be that guy. Like your ideas are not, you don't believe in your ideas because they're valuable. It's your ideas are valuable because you believe in them. So if you stick to it for a long time, eventually people start catching up because leading is the act. Like that's what I define aura as, is the willingness to go first.
Yeah. I want to kind of bridge all of this together for a second. So when I was presenting, I think the most important and relevant parts to what we just talked about is product idea and let's call it mission, right? I think the big idea and the mission can go hand in hand. And so let's take Randy for an example, who we'll talk to tomorrow, but he has the idea of the human weapon, right? So you could say that his mission, the thing that he's leading people towards is he's trying to create more human weapons. He wants people to become a human weapon. The content that he writes is literally anything that falls under that. If he's listening to a podcast and something comes to mind that would help someone take one measly step to becoming a human weapon, he can write about that if he wants. This will lead into a question I have for you, JK. But with that as well, that brings a lot of clarity to what he offers, whatever product, service, offer, shell, whatever it is that you sell, which we'll talk about tomorrow. But when you're helping more people become a human weapon, it's kind of obvious like what you're going to charge for and help people with. You help people become a human weapon and you create a roadmap or a program or something that just helps them reach that goal. And then you look at it, you refine it, you obsess over it, you make it better, you make sure it gets results, you run a few people through it as a test trial, you run through it to make sure that it's actually good. Like if you want to create something productivity, buy some other productivity stuff, try it, make theirs better, merge it all into one, whatever. It everything falls under this big idea or this insight. So the question there from Cindy is, are insight-based posts only useful if you have something to offer? What if you're still in the process of creating something to sell?
I think
Pre-sell.
that's I think that's not the way I would go about it. So here's a let's equate this to a dating example. So for example, if I am going to the club, the offer I want people to buy is me. Well, not anymore. Sorry.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, boys. She said yes, she took the offer. But at the club, it's me, right? So what is the most straightforward way to get to the outcome that you want, which is somebody to buy that offer? Is to go to the club, offer it, and see do people want it or not. So when people are trying to figure out what they sell, they're spending all their time in the bathroom taking selfies, putting on perfume, making sure they're cute, but they're never out there doing things and asking people for it. So then how is anybody going to buy? And that's why I created this nail down Nathan character. He's not a he's not a person. There's not a person named Nathan nailed down, right? He's a behavior. So nail down Nathan, he's always nailing down his offer, nailing down his avatar, nailing down his persona, but he never goes out there and asks people for it. And I pity that guy because it's really hard to build a house when you're always nailing down one nail. You got to get out there and you got to ask people. Stop staying in the bathroom and looking cute. The way you figure out if you should have something to sell is you sell it. You ask people, do you want this or not? Because if not, you end up in always this loop of you end up looking great, but then the night passed. You had a great offer, but how do you know? You never asked anybody.
Yep.
Don't be nailed down, Nathan.
Yeah. So What would you say the thing there is? Is like you have a general idea of what you can help people with. Are you saying that in your content you just start playing around with insights, and if people reach out, you attempt to sell them on helping them with it, and that's how you start getting feedback?
It's you sell the easiest offer that you can. So it's you. So for example, let's
Mhm.
say we
God,
bought
you're good at this,
one-on-one
dude.
coaching with Dan, right? We all bought one-on-one coaching with Dan. Let's say, what do we not care about? We do not care about how many strategy sessions are going to get, how many videos are in the portal. We don't care about how cool the onboarding is, and if it doesn't work out, we get a round trip to Texas, right? We don't care. But we care that it's motherfucking Dan Coe, right? We care that it's the guy. So what do you sell? It's just access to you. And this could be like a chat and calls. That is it to install something. It doesn't have to be some sort of a product because people want you. People buy coaches, not coaching. Like that's a normal thing. People buy access to you, not your thing. Like I don't think there's anybody here who wouldn't be like, if you offer it, would you like to have the course and all the materials Danco has ever created for the same price or unlimited one-on-one calls with him? That they wouldn't take the unlimited one-on-one calls with them. Well, let's just be real, right? So you sell the easiest thing you can, which is you. And then you see the people who want me. And that's a tough realization because you're going to find that a lot of people don't, right? But you're going to end up finding ways to sell yourself. And then you end up finding the thing that you should sell.
Mm, that's good. That's going to reframe what I say tomorrow. I call it a minimum viable offer, and that just overcomplicates it when it's literally just sell access to yourself.
That's right.
Uh,
So I just see the
uh,
guy. Like you get fitness coaching from Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you care about how many sessions? Do you care about what's displayed? Do you care about what
right.
supplements are come? Or do you care
Yeah.
about, guys, I'm being coached by Arnold?
Yeah. And the results, of course, because that's what you like, Arnold, right?
Yeah.
Um, question here, I think we'll end on this one, and this will require both of us. Okay, so how can you post about a general mission but have a specific offer? So JK, I feel like JK and I have two different ways of going about content. And I tend to go a bit more broad, and sometimes I play the viral game, but it just goes to show that you can go either way and have incredible success. So, um, how can, let's say I post about a general mission, but have a specific offer, is that I know that a lot of people within that mission have that problem. And I know that I'm also good at making people aware of the problem that they may not know that they have. In a sense, like, okay, imagine I'm trying to help people become future proof. That's the mission, right? That's what I'm helping people with. I can talk about emotional management. I can talk about spirituality, business, different skills you can learn, kind of whatever. It's just up to my taste. It's my curation. My brand is my curated set of ideas that I want to live in my brand. That's like the art pieces that I curated for people to go into. Now, how does that relate to a specific offer? Well, it depends on what the offer is. So if I'm teaching people writing, like how to write the 2 Hour Writer, my writing system, yes, I could go the route of like targeting people who are interested in writing, and that would, I guess, niche me down. But I can also show people why writing is a valuable skill to learn, no matter what stage of life they're in or what they're going through. I can make writing desirable, right? Someone who doesn't have any interest in writing, I can present them with some idea that they will start to see writing as valuable, and they will want to learn from me, right? And so what that does is I can either niche down or I can go broad, and it honestly doesn't really change my messaging, right? And then in terms of like specific content, I can go deeper into writing, and that definitely leads to more sales on my end. But I sometimes I just want to write about other stuff. So I try to strike a balance between it all. What would you say, JK?
I'd say give them a recent show, don't tell. So when you go in a certain mission, you are gonna get outcomes, and the people that join you on that mission and buy into that philosophy are gonna get outcomes. So it's showing them kind of like, hey, here's how green the grass is on this side. And that often does all the tricks, right? So let's say your mission is getting jacked. So look, I lost this many pounds today. Look, this person that got into metabolic thing got this result today. So that's as much as I would leave it at. Is we market too much, you know? It's if you just show, hey, this side is pretty cool, and things end up working yourself that way. So to me, it's just demonstrate the outcomes that this thing is doing for you and to the people who buy into that mission.
Beautiful. All right. We will end here. Yeah, looks good. Okay. Yep, we will end here. I have to clip when I got in the practice room of this webinar, it recorded me just like sitting there for 10 minutes. So I'm going to edit that out and then I'll upload it and that'll be posted to the dashboard. I'll send an email out. Expect expect the email within 30 minutes. Expect the video by end of day because processing and I have other stuff to do and don't want to cram it in. So email within 30 minutes, recording by end of day, probably much sooner than that. But JK Molina, thank you for coming on. Everyone loved it. Everyone's saying it's excellent, as is when JK comes on. So thank you again, sir, for dedicating your time to this. Anything else on your end?
Thank you for having me, man. This was fun as always. I wish you the best, and hopefully, guys, you'll find your one big idea. Should you like help with it, then hit me up. If
Yes.
not, this was a great event. I know that the guests Dan Scott lined up are fantastic, and well, you're in for a good one.
Nice. I'll actually end on this for the people that are here, just because I know you guys like paid to get into here, but in all honesty, if you want one-on-one help and you have disposable income and you want someone to guide you through it, I don't offer that. JK does because he's extremely good at it. So my full endorsement, if you actually like want someone to help you one-on-one, DM JK. What's your at?
One JK Molina, ONE JK Molina.
Nice. Yep. Follow him. You'll find him. He knows his stuff. Uh, where do we find the dashboard and do we need a password? So when you purchase this event, it got sent as an email to you. It says like, I think it says thanks for your order from at the Danco. So if you just search for at the Danco in your email, you can find a sign in link to the dashboard. If you're missing that, email Dan at thedanco.com and then we'll be able to send an email login to you if you lost it. But either way, you'll get it all via email. So you don't necessarily need to log in. But that's it. Cool. Thank you, JK. Enjoy the rest of
Thank
your
you for
day.
having me. This was fantastic. You have a great day.
Nice. See you, man. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. See ya.